Alright, guys, let's continue. No matter if you are going to present the results of either qualitative or quantitative research studies, it should be presented in a such way that the reader can understand the circumstances under which the data were gathered, processed, and interpreted. That way, the reader can see any sources of bias or the special situations that might bring about the result. Qualitative research frequently involves personal interaction and subjective interpretation, and the manner of an interviewer affects the manner of an interviewee, which in turn affects the questions and behavior of the interviewer again. Importantly, importantly here is that qualitative researchers they have their own philosophical view that the knowledge and the owner of the knowledge are closely interconnected and they cannot be separated from each other. That's why everything is an interpretation of events and nothing speaks for itself. That's why reflexivity is very important when we present the qualitative research. And this reflexivity is a term used when the researcher understands that he or she has a direct effect on the process and outcomes of research. And to demonstrate reflexivity, researchers develop very clear protocols to conduct research and for reporting their processes and results. In addition to the effect that an interview has on the responses of participants, other participants can have an effect on behavior too. And the presence of others and the nature of exchanges among them all should be explained in the research report. You should remember that good qualitative research is very difficult and very time consuming. It's much more difficult than quantitative research. Bad qualitative research is easy to create. If you want to do good qualitative research, you need to invest the time needed to prepare, gather, process, analyze, and then report on your research properly. When we present qualitative research, we can derive some themes, and the key outcome of qualitative research usually is a set of themes. These are key ideas or topics about how people think and feel about the issue under investigation. For example, the research on how people deal with visiting new cafe might cover such issues as familiarization, the purchase process, and criteria for evaluation. Familiarization might include sub-themes such as how people learn, what to expect from this type of coffee, where to sit, where to place an order, likely prices, special language used for different types of coffee, and etc. When two or more respondents are interviewed, the researcher tries to find areas of agreement. And simple paper-based matrices or computer-based spreadsheets let the researchers check off defined behaviors and comments for further analysis. This gives the chance to give percentage of agreement on issues and other scientific features, but that should be not the goal. The great value of interviews and focus groups is the discovery of different perspectives and exploration of reasons why people develop their views. When we present qualitative findings, we can use different styles. First style is called natural. The data are presented here in a shape that resembles the phenomenon being used. For example, if the data are excerpts from a cafe visit, where the researcher wants to understand the sequence of events that affect perceived service quality, then we might present them in a sequential order or in order that represents the flow of the visit itself. Most simple to most complicated, start data presentation with the simplest example you have found, and readers will have better chance of following the presentation as examples become more complicated. First discovered, constructed to last discovered or constructed. Here the data are presented in a chronicle-like fashion, showing the course of the researcher's personal journey in the study. And for example, in the cafe research study, the report may begin with the observations that people enter the cafe, stand for a moment, some look confused, and then walk out. The research proceeds from there. Storytelling is when data are arranged as a narrative. The researchers plot out the data in a fashion that allows them to transition from one exemplar to another, just as narrators arrange details in order to best relate the particulars of the story. Stories have different forms, but usually there is a build-up and climax where there is a big discovery or a problem is resolved. Most important to least important, or from major to minor. This is the style mainly used by journalists when the most important findings are presented first and the minor discoveries come last. And the last one is a dramatic presentation. This is one of the opposite of for the previous one. With the dramatic arrangement scheme, researchers order the data presentation so as to save the surprises or maybe some unforeseen discoveries for last part. Whatever the approach you choose to present your qualitative research results, you should explain your themes with supporting some evidence. Include several different, maybe quotes from your participants to emphasize and bring life to each of your themes. That doesn't mean you present a list of quotes or transcripts and then write a list of findings. Themes should be carefully explained and sorted and presented to help the reader. Here you can have the checklist for reporting qualitative research. Whatever presentation style is used, researchers should explain the nature and the experience of the researchers, study design, and the analysis processes and results. While you present your qualitative research findings, you can use some how to say approaches, for example word clouds, which present the most frequent words or phrases, mind maps or concept maps, which are graphic representations of hierarchical sum lists, verbatim responses, which are the direct quotes from participants that bring together the core of your extracted theme. A short time after submitting your formal report, you should, as the professional researcher, recontact decision makers and determine whether the researchers need to provide some additional information or clarify issues of concern. When we present the results of research report, we can include the graphic aids, which can clarify the complex points or emphasize message. And the key to effective use of graphic aids is to make them an integral part of the report. And the key points should be pointed out and related to the discussion. Several types of graphic aids may be useful in research reports as outlined below here. Tables are the most useful for presenting numerical information, especially when several pieces of information are presented together. Each table should include table number, which allows simple reference from the text, as well as a title, banner head or box head, and stub head, footnotes, and the source note. Here you can see the example of tables. Statistical output is about presenting the results you get from the programs such as SAS, SPSS, RStudio, Stata, or SmartPLS. And here you can see the two examples of the statistical output, but the one which is in the bottom is better than the one in the on the top because it is more simplified, clearer to understand for the reader, and it contains the basic and the most important and needed useful information. Charts translate numerical information into visual form. so that relationships may be easily grasped, and the accuracy of the numbers is reduced to gain this advantage, and each chart should include a figure number, allowing easy reference from the text, title, and explanation of the chart, as well as the source and the footnotes. Charts are subject to distortion, whether unintentional or deliberate. A particular severe kind of distortion comes from, for example, treating unequal intervals if they were equal. And another common distortion is to begin with a vertical scale at some value than the zero. With few exceptions, graphs should start at zero on the vertical axis. When it comes to the oral presentation, we should say that the oral presentation is a verbal summary of the major findings and conclusions and the recommendations given to the clients or line managers to provide them with opportunity to clarify any ambiguous issues by asking some questions. The key to effective presentation is just preparation. The researchers should select maybe 3 or 4 most important findings or insights for emphasis and rely on the written report for the full details. The researcher needs to be ready to support the results, adapt the oral presentation to the audience, and rehearse it a lot of time. Some of the most inspiring and memorable presentations are found in TED Talks that you can easily find on YouTube by leaders in science, maybe technology, and the arts. And most TED Talks have a well-defined structure and format of speech, visualizations, and a time limit of less than 18 minutes. And the following tips are adapted from one of the many guides for TED Talks, which comprises of sections such as introduction, body, conclusion, graphs and infographics, and the rehearsal. Introduction should contain a strong introduction, which starts with a clear statement of your message. Here you should be brief and don't open with a lot of numbers, numerical data, or statistics. In section 2, body part, you should present your topic and evidence. You should make the list of all evidence you want to present. Order the items in your list based on what a person needs to know before they can understand the next point, and from least to the most exciting. Now you should carry out everything you possibly can without losing the integrity of your argument. And there is no such thing as a good presentation that is also too short. Also, as this is the formal part of the research process, you should minimize the jargon or slangs, this kind of informal language. In conclusion, you should leave your audience feeling positive towards you and your research. Don't just summarize, but tell your audience how your results might affect the organization and how maybe it can affect themselves personally. If appropriate, give your audience a call to action. Graphs and infographics. Here you should keep graphics visually clear, especially if the content is complicated. No slides should support more than one point. Use as little text as possible if your audience is reading, they are not listening. Avoid using some bullet points. Consider putting different points on different slides. And in the last section, you should rehearse, and rehearse. Most of the TED speakers we see have gone through at least maybe 4 formal presentations in front of TED organizers before the TED event over a period of between 3 to 6 months, and many more practice presentations in their own time. They focus on rearranging their points to make the most engaging story and cutting extraneous content. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for listening. So the basic main key takeaways today are that communicating research results is really important. It is maybe the most visible part of the research process. That's why you should try your best and show your best.